Welcome to TEVTalk St. John. My name is Quinn McCarthy. I'm with the Century Auto Group. I'm honored to be here with you today to discuss the wonderful world of electric vehicles. I'm a really good reader, by the way. We're very glad to have you here, and we want to encourage you to ask some questions throughout our time together. That means anytime. Put your hand up. We'll have some specific times for Q&A, but anytime you have a question for our experts, let us know. We have some very smart people in the room that can answer any and all questions you may have about electric vehicles. We'll be showing off our Hyundai EV lineup later, and test drives and demos will be available with some of our dealership staff. We'll also have a few breaks throughout the session where you can enjoy some food, which hopefully you guys have some refreshments now, and have a chance for some one-on-one conversations as well. We also have a few folks from Hyundai Canada with us today, along with our dealership staff to help answer any Hyundai-specific questions. Sorry, I forgot the clicker. What's the next thing? It's our first session, so don't mind the speed bumps. So I want to start by introducing our two speakers who are with me today. First, we have Mr. Breton, President and CEO of Electric Mobility Canada. Danielle, I'll ask you to just join me on stage for a second. And our second speaker is Mr. Patrick Nadeau, who will be talking about his trip he took from Québec to Mexico in his electric vehicle, a Hyundai IONIQ 5. So please a welcome for these fine gentlemen. Thank you.
We're good to go?
We're good to go for now. So the main reason we put this presentation together is because, well, there are so many half-truths or outright misinformation being spread about electric vehicles every day. Hyundai is a leader in the field of electric vehicles, and we believe it is essential to set the record straight and have a more in-depth conversation on the subject. So first, what is an electric vehicle? Some seem to think that electric cars are a kind of spaceship, a new breed of cars that must be studied and tamed. However, the principle remains the same. The electric car has 4 wheels, a steering wheel, lights, and turn signals. The big difference is the energy it uses. While a conventional gasoline car must burn fuel to run its internal combustion engine, the electric car stores energy in a large battery, which is usually located under its floor. This battery allows the car to travel several hundred kilometers without emitting carbon dioxide. Quieter and generally faster than a gasoline car, the electric car therefore reduces its ecological footprint. And with a charging station at home, we can wake up every morning with 100% charge, just like we do with our phones. With the advancement of technology, electric vehicles are currently being deployed at an astronomical speed. Just 10 years ago, electric vehicles were still seen as something rare, even unusual, which leads some people to believe that this is a new invention. However, the electric car has been around a long time, a very long time, in fact. We have to go back almost 200 years to find the first documentation of an electric vehicle. In the 1830s, a Scotsman named Robert Anderson had the idea of putting batteries on a horse-drawn carriage. The car could barely travel a kilometer, and the batteries were not rechargeable. The idea was therefore not really viable and was mainly used to get the neighborhood talking about a horseless carriage. Despite this, the idea was born. In the late 1800s, Americans in the Philadelphia area took the idea further by developing the Electrobat, which is now considered the first commercially available electric vehicle. By the turn of the 1900s, this vehicle was being used in various electric taxi fleets in the northeastern United States. The range of the vehicles was limited, of course, but the taxis were equipped with removable batteries that could be removed and replaced with another fully charged battery. Despite the interesting concept, the company faced many financial challenges and eventually ceased operations in 1907. My favorite example of the potential of electric vehicles remains the Jamais Content. This is the car you see in the image at the bottom right. Shaped like a missile, this electric car became the first car to break the 100 kilometers per hour mark before any gasoline vehicle.
You know, Jamais Content means never happy?
Never happy, just like my wife. So despite all its potential, the electric car quietly disappeared from the map around the turn of the 1900s. I'm just glad nobody raised their hand to ask why my wife's not happy, so thank you guys. I really appreciate that. Ironically, it was the advent of an electrical device, the starter, that propelled the gasoline car to market dominance. The starter made gasoline cars much easier to use. Before its arrival, you literally had to crank the engine manually. And of course, there was the price. By the time the famous Ford Model T came along, the gasoline car was a more logical financial choice for the vast majority of motorists. The 20th century was therefore the century of gasoline cars. Despite this, the idea of the electric car never really faded into oblivion. More modern electric vehicle concepts kept the project alive. You can see a few of them here on the screen, including the General Electric Delta, which was a response to attorney Ralph Nader, who had accused the company of deliberately hiding plans for a car that could reach 130 kilometers an hour and travel 320 kilometers. Did any of you have any of these cars, by the way? No? Okay. So here we are now in 2025, and the picture is changing radically. At Hyundai, close to 20% of their sales in Canada last year were 100% electric cars. Including hybrids and plug-in hybrids, 34% of their sales included cars that were electrified in one way or another. The fight against climate change makes this transition inevitable. We can no longer sit back and do nothing. At Hyundai, including the luxury brand Genesis, are currently offering 7 different electric vehicles with an 8th soon to follow, the IONIQ 9. And this is just the beginning. Several countries around the world, including Canada, are aiming for 100% of our new vehicles sold to be electric by 2035. We appreciate that this is ambitious, but it's achievable. Thanks to technological advances, electric cars can now travel several hundred kilometers on a single charge. They can also be recharged in just a few minutes and are generally quieter and faster than gasoline-powered vehicles. Despite all this, there are still many persistent myths about electric cars that are being spread on a daily basis. To set the record straight, we've identified 5 persistent myths that need to be debunked. So before I introduce our first speaker, who will be tackling these myths, let's open the floor to any questions. Anybody? Yes?
That one figure you said, about 34% of Hyundai vehicles are electrified in some way. Is that like just the world, or like is Canada? What's the Canada stats?
That's Canada.
That is
34%. So the hybrid plug-in, and then the full electric. It's getting there. Anybody else? We do have a crew from the community college, is that correct? Have you guys learned much about the electric vehicle so far? Perfect. So today's a big day. All right, we're gonna fill you full of knowledge. All right, we'll expect a few questions later, so I will move along to introduce our first speaker. Danielle Breton is President and CEO of Electric Mobility Canada. Founded in 2006, EMC is the national industry association that enables and accelerates the transition to sustainable electric mobility through advocacy, collaboration, education, and leadership, with the ultimate goal of creating a cleaner, healthier, and a more prosperous future for all Canadians. A former Quebec Minister of the Environment, Sustainable Development, Wildlife and Parks, he was the first elected official in charge of a government strategy for the electrification of transportation in Canada back in 2012. Involved in electric mobility for almost 3 decades, he graduated in sustainable carbon management and has written hundreds of articles and several books on the subject of transportation electrification, climate change, air pollution, and energy transition in the past 20 years. In September of 2024, he published a book called 50 Myths and Half-Truths About EVs. So please welcome Danielle Breton.
Thank you, Quinn. Hi, everybody. So, yeah, I've been at this for a very long time, which means I'm old. but also I know what I'm talking about. I drove here with the IONIQ 5, 900 kilometers, and Patrick drove about 800 kilometers to get here.
Yep.
And with their IONIQ 5 in 2025, there's no issue at all. It's very easy to travel, across Canada, even in the US. I actually travel a lot in the US with electric cars. So let's start with the myths. Myth number 1, EVs don't work in the winter. Well, I'm living proof that it does work in the winter. Reduced range in winter conditions is not unique to electric vehicles because EV range has increased significantly in recent years. So between 2012 and 2023, the median range of electric cars has grown fourfold, from about 110 kilometers to 450 kilometers. It will keep growing as time goes by. If you look at the IONIQ 6, you can even get up to 700 kilometers in good conditions. And this is only the beginning. What sets Hyundai apart? All Hyundai electric vehicles have a range of over 400 kilometers, easily. Hyundai electric vehicles have advanced features such as heated front seats, heated steering, a heat pump, and battery preconditioning before fast charging. This is very important. I will give you an idea. I used to own a Chevy Bolt. Chevy Bolt was a great car back in 2017. That's almost 8 years ago. My God, time goes fast. Then in the winter, because there was no battery preconditioning, charging time in the winter could last to about an hour and a half with a Chevy Bolt. Yesterday, the day before, same charging from 10 to 80% with a Hyundai IONIQ 5 or IONIQ 6, 15 to 20 minutes. So that's in 7 years. So that's where technology is going. In the summer, 15 minutes, no problem. The advantages of EVs in the winter. EVs always start regardless of weather. I actually often boosted gas cars that wouldn't start at minus 20, minus 30 with my electric car. It's possible to preheat the cabin and defrost the windshield without polluting. The lower center of gravity of electric vehicles provides better traction. And the linear acceleration provides better stability. Myth number 2. There are not enough charging stations. It's true. We need more charging stations. But to say that it's a big issue, it's a make it or break it issue, actually driving from Québec to come here, most of the charging that I did was in New Brunswick. And I see more and more fast chargers along the way. So when I got to New Brunswick and I looked at the screen in the IONIQ 5, I could see many options for me to charge. Actually, I would say 5 to 6 times more options that I needed. Because there are more and more fast chargers, and those chargers are more and more powerful, I went from a few years ago coming here, I had a 50 kilowatt fast charger. That was my option. Now, we have up to 350 kilowatt chargers. So it's a big difference. It makes not only that you have more choice, but you can charge a lot faster. So the Canadian network of public charging stations continues to expand. As of December 2024, there were 32,000 plus public chargers across Canada. So when it comes to Hyundai recently joined forces to develop an innovative fast charging network that aims to install 30,000 plus fast charging stations in the US and Canada. Hyundai EV drivers will soon have access to more than 12,000 Tesla superchargers on top of that. Meaning that for people to travel, and Patrick knows this better than anyone, there's no issue if you want to drive long distances. And keep in mind that when you live in Canada, the majority of Canadians, where do they live? Single unit homes. For them to install a home charger is easy, affordable, and charging at home is so much less expensive, meaning that the difference between doing 100 kilometers with an electric car when you charge at home or doing 100 kilometers with the same type of gas car when you fill at the gas station, it's a ratio about 1 to 5, meaning it will cost you approximately $12 with a gas car and approximately $2 to $3 with an electric car. Myth number 3. EVs cause more pollution than gas-powered vehicles. I've heard that one many times. It's actually completely false. Wherever you are, even in China or India. But let me give you an example from here in Canada. The New Brunswick network production, electricity production, is actually a lot cleaner than that of your neighbor in Nova Scotia. So in this book that I wrote with scientists from the National Research Council of Canada, we made the calculations that if you were today to buy an electric car in Nova Scotia, where the majority of the electricity production comes from fossil fuel, either coal or oil or natural gas, even then, after 250,000 kilometers, the difference that would be that you will emit 4 times more GHG emissions in Nova Scotia with a gas car than with an electric car. If you are in New Brunswick, it's about 10 times. So it's a huge difference. So this is a national average, but you guys in New Brunswick, you're better than that. It's closer to this here. So electric vehicles emit significantly fewer greenhouse gas emissions over their lifetimes. This reduction is 75% Nova Scotia and even more New Brunswick. Electric vehicles emit far fewer air pollutants than gas-powered vehicles. So, we have people studying mechanics here. Okay. What's the difference? Which one will emit more GHG emissions between a scooter, small scooter with a 2-stroke engine, or a Cadillac Escalade? Which one will emit more GHG emissions? No, the Cadillac Escalade, because GHG emissions are directly linked to the fuel consumption. The more you burn fuel, the more GHG emissions you emit. You know, you've heard about anti-pollution systems? Anti-pollution systems have exactly no effect on reducing GHG emissions. The more you burn gas, the more you emit GHG emissions. It's 2.3 kilograms of CO2 per liter burned. Then, which one between the same scooter and the Cadillac Escalade will emit the more emissions of atmospheric pollutant, air pollutants? The scooter. Because the anti-pollution system will mean that you will be able to filter a lot more carbon monoxide emissions, COV, fine particulates, than with the scooter. So, you have one that emits more GHG emissions because it burns more gas, and the other one emits more air polluted emissions because there's no filter, basically. So which one should we work at reducing? Air pollution, which create health problems, cardiac problems, pulmonary problems and cancers, or reducing GHG emissions, which basically creates chaos on the planet with all the fires and all the catastrophic situations in California here with the floods and the droughts. Which one should we be working at reducing the most? Air pollution or GHG emissions? Both. And how can you do that? Electric cars. Keep in mind, EVs emit much less pollution. It doesn't mean that they emit no pollution. That's not true. But keep in mind also that when you have a gas vehicle, you will waste 300 to 400 times more natural resources than with an electric car. Why? What's the percentage of the components of an electric vehicle battery that can be recycled? 98%. Up to 98%. What's the percentage of burnt gas that you can recycle? 0. Thank you. Good answer. About the 800-volt battery architecture, I'm not sure you're aware of the system that you can find in a Hyundai product, or a Kia product, or a Genesis product. They have an architecture of 800-volt charging batteries. Compared to most of the competition, even Tesla, they work on 400 volts. What that means is that it will enhance efficiency and reduces weight. By increasing the voltage, the current needed is much lower, enabling thinner cables and smaller electronic components. This minimizes energy losses to heat, thereby increasing overall efficiency, battery range, and charging time. What that means. Let me give you an example. If you have a 400, most fast chargers here work on 400 volts. If you have, I'm sorry to say this, a Chevy Equinox EV, they are limited with 330 volt architecture. So even if you have a 400 volt charger, it is limited by the vehicle. So if you have a 100 kilowatt charger limited by the vehicle, which limits the speed of charging, you won't be able to get more than 70 kilowatt of charging. With a Hyundai or a Kia product, you can get up to 238, 240 kilowatt of charging, which means that on a daily basis, you can get your vehicle charged from 10 to 80% in 15 to 20 minutes. And if you drive a Chevy Equinox, it'll take you 30 to 40 minutes. So it's double the time to triple the time. So the architecture, the 800 volt battery architecture, normally, you only find this in vehicles like Lucid, Rivian, Porsche, all luxury brands. So the only brands that have 800 volt architecture, which is not a luxury brand, is Hyundai, Kia. That's it. Myth number 4, EVs are too expensive. Although the initial investment in purchasing an EV is usually higher, it's true. They are financially advantageous when the total cost of ownership is taken into account. What does that mean? Maintenance and everything, exactly. That's exactly it. So a lot of people, they have been used to think about monthly payment. But beyond that, how much in gas does it cost you every month? A fortune. That's my point. People tend to forget this, but the price of gas has gone up almost 40 to 50% the past 5 years. So it does make a big difference. There are also some factors to consider. Government incentives. Here in New Brunswick, you do have a government incentive. At the federal level, well, we had some surprises 2 weeks ago, but we're working on that. We're trying to find a solution with the federal government. Maintenance, as you said, and I will say a word or two very quickly about the fact that if you are self-employed or you own a business, there is what we call the federal fiscal deduction, meaning that instead of using the $5,000 that we don't have anymore anyway, we could take advantage of the special deduction for the purchase of electric cars if you own a business or you are self-employed. I will give you my example. In 2019, instead of taking the $5,000, I said I won't take the $5,000 because it was either one or the other back then. I used the fiscal deduction for electric cars. I saved 20 grand. So those people who own a business or are self-employed, they should look into that. So if you need more information on that, I can fill you up afterwards. Myth number 5, EVs are not fun to drive. The instant torque of any electric motor provides astonishing acceleration. The IONIQ 5N. So, has anybody tried the IONIQ 5N? No? You should. If you can, you should. It's a lot of fun. The IONIQ 5N recently won the title of World Performance Car of the Year, showing that EVs can be just as powerful as actually just as more powerful. And nearly half of Canadians have never sat in an EV. They are fun to drive. They make less noise most of the time, but this one, you can put noise into it. So does the Charger EV as well. So now, if you have any questions or comments, if you want to see my book, for all those people here, I'm selling them at half price. Instead of $35, $17.50 while we're here. And this is a book for somebody who wants to learn about EVs. Any questions or comments?
What's the charging life cycle of the battery?
Come on.
What's the charging life cycle of the battery?
You mean how long does the battery last?
Yeah.
Basically?
Yeah.
Okay. So right now, I would say that for most electric cars, 300,000 to 600,000 kilometers. You see, you have what, 140,000 kilometers on your car? Have you seen much of a change?
I think I may have lost like 5.
I have lost 3% with my electric car with 100,000 kilometers. I don't know if you know of a guy called Jeff Don. He is in Dalhousie University in Nova Scotia. They're working on the next generation of batteries. We're talking about battery span of 8 million kilometers. So the problem is going to be the car, not the battery. You know? Any other questions or comments? You sir.
Will there ever be a battery that'll give you 1,000-kilometer range?
Yeah. Yeah, it's happening. Actually, I'm always the thing is that how many cars have 1,000 kilometers of range? Gas cars. Your hybrid's pretty close. And how about your bladder? Can you last 1,000 kilometers? I can't. Any other question, sir?
Yeah, I'd like to share my experience with 2023 Hyundai that I have. And
Which is what model?
I have it's the gray one over there. It's the 2023 Hyundai IONIQ 5.
Okay.
And I've got the stronger battery and 2 electric motors. And I've had it since June 2023.
Okay.
Had to wait 1.5 years for it, but I got it. And the first summer that I had it, I made a trip to Northern Ontario, where I'm originally from.
Okay.
The Abitibi-Temiskaming area, if anybody's familiar with Ontario.
Yeah.
And everything was going along just fine until I got off the main highways. I went to see a Blue Jays game. From there, I went north. And once I got past North Bay, going up towards Timmins, Kirtland Lake, then it became a little more problematic for charging the car.
Agreed.
And Mr. Breton would probably know that.
I know that. Actually, the city of Timmins was proposed to install chargers, and they said no, as recently as last fall.
Well, apparently now Ivy has a program to install quite a few chargers
Yes,
along
they
that
do.
Highway 11, I think it's called. Anyways, we got to Kirtland Lake. We had to stop in a motel in New Liskeard because they're the only one that had a charger. And we managed to charge the car. And it's not that easy because you need a card, or some work with credit card and some don't. It's not a uniform system.
Not yet.
So that certainly has to be improved. And I believe they're working on it. And when I got to Kirtland Lake, which is where I was going to stay for a week, the only charger that we found on the network was at a Tim Horton, and it was discontinued because they tapped into the Tim Horton power and every time they went to use it, the breaker tripped, so they were out of power. So anyways, community college had 2 chargers. They were low level. I think they were like 25 kilowatt.
Okay.
So we ended up, we were there for a week. So we ended up leaving the car there, and it took about 2 hours to charge. And we were able to walk from there to Tim Horton and sit for 2 hours or 1.5 hours because it takes time to walk back. So we did that for the week. We didn't travel a whole lot. So then when we left, we went back home the other way through Noranda and Val-d'Or and Louis-Court, and we had no problem there. There was chargers every...
In Quebec, there's not,
yes,
it's not an
75 kilometers, you would find a charger, and no problem. And then they have a reserve there called La Vérendrye,
Yeah.
which is about 150, maybe more kilometers. So in Louis-Court, we charged up, and then when we got to the other end, we still had plenty of power, but we could charge there again. And
Yeah.
after that, there was no problem. But the main highway in northern Ontario going towards Thunder Bay can be problematic if anybody is driving that route, because I spoke to somebody from Kapuskasing, and or I corresponded. I didn't speak to the person, and that's why that person didn't buy an electric car. They don't have the network up there.
So can I say something about that? So I am the co-chair of the Charging Infrastructure Network for Transport Canada. And what we have seen is, depending on the province, the networks is either well-developed or not well-developed. So New Brunswick is getting better and better. Quebec is really good. BC is really good. PI is getting good. But Ontario, the Ontario government decided to stop installing chargers altogether back in 2018 until 2 years ago. So they have a lot of catching up to do. They know it now. So what I said to the folks in Timmins just a few months ago, and the North Bay, I said, guys, you are losing tourism money because of what you're doing. So you're right. You know, to me, it's an opportunity when you are in a destination that's a bit farther away to install chargers, because right now there's about 800,000 electric cars across Canada. It's going to be 3 million in 2030. So if people want to do not install chargers in some tourist areas in northern Quebec or northern Ontario or northern wherever, they'll lose money. Now they're starting to get it, but Ontario certainly has some catching up to do.
Well, we go there every year because my family's up there.
Yeah.
And so the first year we went with the electric car, we wanted to try it. And we did. And the second year we went back, but we took our other car.
Yeah.
For that reason, because when you're up north like that, it's a little bit problematic. We're going again this summer, but I don't think things have changed yet.
Before you go, look on the Charge Hub application to see if new chargers have been installed.
I did that the other day. I didn't see them yet.
Yeah, so get back in touch with me and I'll work on it. I have a question for you. Raise your hand, anybody here who has ever filled up his gas car for free? Yeah. I always ask that question, and only one person said to me once, young kid, and he said, never cost me anything, it's my parents who's paying for the gas. But the truth of the matter is that on my way here, I stopped at a hotel in Rivière-du-Loup, and many hotels have free charging. So did you. And a lot of places, hotels, motels are, you know, well, here, I mean, it's different. But the point is that because they want to attract tourists, many hotels and restaurants and camping sites offer free charging, which is something that's really interesting. So, more questions? One more question, go ahead.
Seeing that issue, wouldn't it be wise to kind of develop like a power bank to at least,
A what?
power bank, just like with your phone,
Okay.
that when a portable charger or a power bank that would take you at least half percentage of your battery.
Well, you can always charge, you do trickle charging at any 120 volt plug, you know, if you have the time. Here, I'm staying at a hotel called the Delta Hotel in St. John's. They don't have level 2 chargers, but I just plugged the car in the 120 volt port, and it only takes more time. But since I'm here for a couple of days, I'm okay. Okay? Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Danielle. Is there any other questions for anybody, I guess, really? If they're Hyundai related, we can get some folks or anything like that. One question I wanted to ask, I'll prod this conversation, I guess, a little bit. We did have the question on range, about 1,000 kilometers, and Danielle hit that on the head about bladder and gas vehicles for that range, but I know with some friends of mine that have bought EVs and just customers that we've had, how much driving do you actually do? Like, what's the farthest distance you go at a time on a regular basis? I'm not saying a family trip to Northern Ontario is obviously a unique situation, but what's your day-to-day driving look like? The reason I ask is the very first electric car we sold at our Hyundai store in Truro was the IONIQ sedan, 75 kilometer range. First car we sold, I guess that was 6-ish years ago. I still see that guy driving it. He's a retired fella. He drives in to get his coffee in the morning. He goes to meet his friends at another coffee shop later in the day. Goes, gets his groceries. He charges up at night, every night from his house. He's never had an issue. We see him every now and then in the dealership. Day to day, that's the driving. And I think...
The worst people can buy a PHEV,
Yeah.
you know?
And there is, yeah, and the PHEV is a good compromise on that too, right? For the short time that you're in town, that's how it goes. Another friend of mine, he just switched from a Kona Ice to a Kona EV, and he basically putters around. His workplace has a level 2 charger at it, so that's where he does the bulk of his charging until he installs a home charger. But I get it. Range anxiety is a concern for him. On the third day he owned that car, he was driving from Truro to Halifax, about an hour's drive. He got about halfway and started seeing his battery depleting. He got pretty anxious, went to a charger. You can guess which brand wasn't working. And he got a little anxious, had to go 20 more minutes. There was a lineup for it. He was getting fairly anxious. He was calling me saying, what's going on? What am I going to do? And he waited that 20 minutes. And 2 months later, he is our best testimony I've ever heard. He loves it. He understands it. It's just kind of getting over that hump. It's like your first day at a job, right? You're nervous, but then you get over it, and then a week later you're an expert, just like me, right? Like I know everything. So,
No, I just wanted to say, when you're a beginner, a new owner, I was going golfing in Bactouche the first weekend that I was going, and I just Googled quickly, is there a charger? Well, it said yes, so I just went with it. Well, there was a Tesla charger, so it's just a matter of what you're saying, getting to know, like people do have issues, but what's interesting, like New Brunswick has an EV charger social media group. Mm-hmm. I've not seen a single complaint about how awful an EV is. So when you look at people that actually have them aren't the people that are saying how awful they are.
For a lot of people, range anxiety
Yes.
is something that's being felt by people that don't own an EV. In 2025 anyway. I mean, back in 2012, when you drove a Nissan Leaf with 100 kilometers of range, that was your main car, that was a very different story. But my wife has a 100 kilometer, a smart EV, but it's our second car. And for many families have 2 cars, if not more.
okay, if nobody has any other questions, I think we'll take like a 5-10 minute break. Everyone can find the facilities, there's food, definitely intermingle with all of our terrific experts and staff, and we'll get back together and listen to Patrick on his voyage. Thank you. So I'm now very happy to introduce our second guest speaker. Our next speaker is a true trailblazer in sustainable travel and immersive storytelling. Patrick Nadeau is the owner of Nadeau Photo Solution, a Quebec-based company specializing in creating immersive virtual reality experiences through 360-degree and 3D videos. His passion for exploration and innovation has taken him to breathtaking destinations where he captures and shares stories that inspire and educate. That's right, St. John is a breathtaking destination. That's right. He knew that. In 2022, Patrick embarked on an extraordinary 15,700 kilometer journey from Quebec to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, and back in his Hyundai IONIQ 5 electric vehicle. This 116-day adventure showcased not only the reliability and efficiency of EVs for long-distance travel, but also how they can support professional projects, thanks to cutting-edge technologies like the vehicle-to-load (VTL) feature. Patrick used this innovation to power his cameras and equipment, proving that electric vehicles are more than just a mode of transportation. They are tools for creativity and sustainable living. Today, Patrick will share his unique perspective on the myths and realities of electric vehicles, drawing from his own experiences. Whether you're a skeptic, a curious learner, or an EV enthusiast, Patrick's journey and insights are sure to leave you inspired. Please join me in welcoming Patrick Nadeau.
So I think you have your slides up there.
Perfect. Great. I'm really happy to be here today. Just like you said, my name is Patrick Nadeau. I came from a city called Disraeli, which is between Quebec City and Montreal. So I did like 800 kilometers to come here. I did it in 2 days slowly, but I'm very happy to be here, just like I said, because if there is something that I strongly believe is that the future of the car industry is electric. And I'm also here to prove you that doing long distance is far easier than you may think. I start my business, I'm the co-owner with my wife, Caroline. She's not here today because we have 3 kids at home. And we started a business, Nadeau Photo Solution, like 15 years ago. We started in photography, like sport photography, real estate photography. And for the last 7 years, we are doing more 360 video and 3D. So I brought with me some VR headset. You should be able at the end to experience the western part of the USA. I don't know, does any of you already try VR headset? Yeah? Like games? Yeah. Did you feel sick? No? Good. You won't feel sick with this kind of experience. Yeah, so I have all this experience, and I'm very happy to show you that all this trip is possible. Because the first thing that I must say is, why did I choose to buy an electric car? Well, the first moment when I saw electric car was maybe more like the Tesla in 2010s. But those cars were really, really expensive. And with the family, I couldn't fit the family in a smaller car that I could afford. So in 2021, when Hyundai came out with the IONIQ 5, I saw that on the web. I realized that that could be the nice kind of car that I could buy. I didn't know the price, but I knew that I could do long travel. I knew that I could fit the family in that kind of car. So when Hyundai at Tetford received that car in December 21, I went there to have a look. And when he told me the price, well, it was a mathematical, let's say, decision, because I used to drive 2 pickup trucks at home. I have 2 Ford One F50, and I'm doing like 50,000 kilometers per year, which is a lot. And at the time in 2021, the price per liter was $1.10, which is now like $1.65, $1.70. And at the time, I was spending $1,400 per month in gasoline. So with that car, with the IONIQ 5, I put down a cash down of $5,000, and I put the rest on the 5 years term, and it cost me $650. So today, I'm saving more than $1,000 per month. It's kind of funny to say, but I can see that car like an investment, because I'm saving more than $1,000 per month. $1,000 per month for me is like paying my house. So it's a lot of money. So that's why I decided to buy the car. I ordered the car in December 21. I received it like 3 months later. And by the time I think I took a look at all the video that you can find on YouTube. My kids and my wife were tired to see me watching all those videos. But I felt like I knew the car from inside out when I received it. So, after the first few days that I had the car, I really feel like I don't have any anxiety range. After a few days, you have some kind of question like, would it be easy to find charger? Well, it's really easy. In Quebec, it's not a big problem. And you can find charger here as well, not a big deal too. But 90% of the time, you will charge at home. So don't forget that part. It's really important. So, and Caroline and I, both of us love to travel around the world. Like I used to say to my wife, back to the time where we were happier people before the kids. Of course, I'm joking. But we had the opportunity to travel around the world. We did like the 5 continents, 25 countries. We spent like 6 years traveling. But, and still today, we are still traveling with the kids. We did homeschooling until the last 2 years. And we used to travel to escape the winter for a few weeks or few months per year. And in 2022, I told to my wife, I want to go to the western part of USA, like the desert, like Grand Canyon, Arches, Zion, Bryce Canyon. Does any of you have been there before? No? Yeah, you've been there? It's like being on another planet. And I told to my wife, I want to go there and create a virtual reality experience, like a 360 video in 3D, like you will see later. And those experiences are shown to schools, public library, cultural center. We do that as well in a hospital for people with disability. So it gives them a chance to travel, like it's like I'm teleporting you somewhere else. So this is the travel that I did. I left from home, which is Disraeli, close to between Montreal and Quebec. And I did 15,500 kilometers all the way, because I have to do some exploration all around that too. And all that with the IONIQ 5. And so I told to my wife, I want to go there by myself, because I'm going to film, I'm going to work. And I can't be the only one who's going to escape the winter for sure. So I told her, why don't you go to Puerto Vallarta, and I will reach you there. But when I said that, I was thinking more going there with my pickup truck and with the gasoline car. But then I start to think about, what if I do it with the electric car? Would it be possible? So I took a look on the web. I took a look on apps like PlugShare, or there's another app called ABRP, which is a better route planner. So you can go there and you can enter your destination, your starting point, and it will show you all the charging station. So I went there and I found out that it was possible. It will be a challenge for sure in the western part of USA, and in Mexico will be another ball game for sure, but it's possible. And along the way, I found out that it was easy to find fast charger like Electrify America. We have the sister here, which is Electrify Canada, but there's a lot of Electrify America, Charge Point Network, and every state have their home network too. So, and you can find those chargers like in the Walmart parking lot, and they have a lot of 350 kilowatt per hour, and it's so fast that the only things you do, you go to the Walmart, you plug the car, you go inside, you go to the restroom, you go to grab something to eat, you come back and you're ready to go. So I never had to wait too much for a charger. And I will say like the average of waiting in total, I would say it's like 30 minutes, 35 minutes, because sometimes you have slower charger, but most of the time I was able to find fast charger all along the way. I also stopped a lot. I did a lot of camping. I'm a camping guy too. So what I did is, in the campground, you can plug your car there. They have like a 220 volt, the same plug that you're going to use for your VR. So I could use an adapter for that. Or sometimes you just have the 110 outlet and you're there for a few days, so you have more than enough time to charge your car. And I also did some wide camping, because with this car, with the vehicle to load, it's an adapter that you connect to the next to your car, where you plug your charger, the charging station. You plug the adapter there, and you can get the electricity, the energy from the battery. So I could plug my computer, I could go on the web, watch movie, I could connect my cameras. I think I have a picture of that. Those are the kind of experience we do. We have this 360 camera, so I could plug the camera in that adapter to recharge the battery, my drones and all this stuff. And I also brought a stove. It's like an induction plate. Sorry for my English. So you're able to boil water in 2 minutes. So it was great, because sometimes I could stop along the road, do a coffee, and go back on the road. So I used that a lot. And I used to camp in the tent, but in the western part during the night, I was there like in the end of October and November. So during the night, sometimes it was the freezing point, sometimes even below that, it was like -5 degrees. Then I start to realize, why am I sleeping in the tent when I can sleep in the car with the warm? So I put all my stuff in the tent, and I was sleeping inside the car. I put it at 21 Celsius. I flipped the seat. I put the mattress there. And for people who think that what will happen if you're stuck in the snowstorm overnight, you're going to miss battery, I can tell you that keeping me at 21 degrees Celsius for 12 hours when it's like -5 outside, it asks like 9% of the battery for 12 hours. So it's not a big deal at all. Plus, if you're stuck along the road and you have to spend the night, you also have the risk of asphyxia also, which you don't have with an electric car too. So it's more secure. So that was a good accessory to have when you travel. Yep. Yep.
It's actually, when there's a snowstorm,
Yeah.
something that can happen, and it happened many times in the past. You're stuck in a snowstorm in a gas car, you can get carbon monoxide poisoning.
Yeah, exactly.
If there's a leak in the car, which is something that can obviously not happen in an electric car.
Yeah. And if you think you cannot do long distance in the same day, I did as far as 1,100 in the same day. So you can do long distance in the same day. Not a big deal. And after that, I went to Puerto Vallarta in Mexico. For sure, in Mexico, they don't have any. They start to have more and more public charger, but on the road that I was doing from Arizona to Puerto Vallarta, they didn't have any public charger. So what I did, I took a look on the app's PlugShare, and I found out that I could have like hotels at every 450 kilometers. So I could get there, plug the car overnight, and start the next day with a full charge. It happened 2 times that I had to stop to the dealership where I could find a plug, and they let me plug for like, I just need to have like 50 kilometers, not more than that, to make sure that I will be able to reach the next hotel. So, and the other thing too is in Mexico, it's not recommended to travel by night because, well, there's some risk of the crime, but there's animal along the road too. But if you think the road are bad over there, well, they are much better than here, for the highway at least. Yeah, if you get out of the highway, it's something else. But if you stay on the highway, the roads are very nice. They are more expensive though, because you have some toll pay to along the way. But it's really possible to do, and they have less traffic than in USA for sure, also. So I did all that to along the Mexico. It took me 3 days from Arizona to Puerto Vallarta. So the other good thing is at the hotel you have a security guard, so you plug the car there and you don't have to worry about the car. Anyway, you don't do really camping in Mexico, so you're better at the hotel. And once I reached the condo over there, because we rent a condo for a few months, I just had to plug it in the 110 volt, and it was more than enough for my needs during the day. All right? So, did I miss electricity energy in my battery during that trip? No, but it went close one time on my way back in the middle of the desert in Mexico. I had to do 465 kilometers between two hotels. I took a look on the apps again to find a charger. I had a level 2, but when I went there, it was a level 2 Tesla charger, but I bought an adapter that you can connect for a level 2 and put it in the car. But for a reason that I don't know, it never worked that time. So I took a look again on the apps. I found another level 2 charger at the dealership. I went there, but once I reached the dealership, I realized that it was Sunday, so the place was closed. And but I spoke with the security guard. He tried everything to give me access to the charger, but the door were closed. So I say, what do I do? Do I keep going, or do I wait the next day for the dealership to open? So I decided I keep going. And the range for that car is 480. But the difference with an electric car and a gasoline car is it's going to take more energy on the highway than driving in city. So 480 is usually for like a kind of mix of road, not just highway. So I decided I keep going, and I went back to a big truck, and we went like 90 kilometers per hour. It cut me the winds, and I reached the destination with 4% left in the battery, but I've been able to do it. So that was the only moment that for me it was the most stressful, but I know the car very, very well. So sometimes I can go back home, go from my place, go to Montreal, come back in winter. I may have some percentage in it, and I know very well the car that I can come back to my home with 3-4% in the car. So for me, there's no really surprise because I'm used to that. Yeah. So that's pretty much about all the trip that I did. So it's just like for me to come here, it wasn't a problem at all. I didn't even look at the apps. I knew I only had to charge one time on the first day on the fast charger. Then I went to the hotel, I plug it because they have a free charger, I plug it. I did another day, another like 250 around. I plugged the car again a little bit, and then I reached the place here with 28% left. And it cost me like $45 to come here to do 800 kilometers. So it wasn't it wasn't a big expense. And to do all the trip that I told you, the 15,500 kilometers, it cost me $630 to do all that. And of course, if I was all the time in fast charger, it would cost me more than that. But I had so much opportunity to charge for free that it wasn't a problem at all. So, yeah. Yep.
How much did it cost you to drive here?
To drive, just like I said, $45.
From home to here?
$45.
$45?
Yeah.
And 800 kilometers?
800, yeah.
What's the price of a liter here? $1.50? $1.70?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you drive, let's make a quick calculation, okay? 800 kilometers, you say?
800, yeah.
Okay, 800 kilometers, so $1.70 you're saying? Let's be conservative, $1.60, okay? $1.60. If you drive a vehicle that does 8 liters per 100 kilometers, so 8 liters, so it's 64. It's 64 liters for 800 kilometers times 1.7, $108. And that's with him charging on a fast charger. If you charge at home, it's less than that.
And it's the worst case because it's winter time.
It's in
but
the winter
if
time.
I come in summertime, I'm gonna have still more range. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also. Yeah. Any question? Yeah.
For your trip, how many hours did you drive for? Like in like one day?
Let's say so. It was a road trip, so the point was not to do it as fast as possible, but in one day, just like I say, when I did like 1,100 kilometers, I think I start like around 7:30 in the morning, and I stopped probably around 10 at night. Yeah. So yeah, and you have some toll pay, you have to stop to eat, and you always can combine it. You're gonna combine that by doing something else anyway, because I have to answer email, I have to. So I never felt like I'm losing my time. And during all that trip, I think I had to wait like 1 or 2 times, maybe 5 minutes. I know it's changing. There's more and more electric car, but there's more and more fast charger also. So it never been an issue. And just in December, I went in Florida with my family too. So, and last week I was in Ottawa. And so far I did 140,000 kilometers with the car. It's a 222. And I have no issue with it. So, yeah. I only had to change the 12-volt battery after 80,000 kilometers in it, but that's about it. And I did we changed the liquid for the battery, the coolant, which is normal because it's part of the maintenance. But that's it. I didn't have anything else to do. So yeah.
Brakes?
Nope, I didn't touch the brakes yet.
140,000 kilometers?
Yeah, I should have had a look, but I didn't touch it. I'm not using it. I'm not using the brake because we have I use a lot the high paddle, the regen. So it brings back the energy to the battery, and so you're gonna totally stop with that at the corner of the street. So I never use the brake. Yeah, my wife uses it sometime. It's perfect because you don't want it to be corrosive.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
You have to use the mechanical brakes once in a while so that
Yeah.
they don't seize or rust.
Yeah, well, that's
Quinn, can I ask you a question to the students? So, correct me if I'm wrong. You are studying to become mechanics? Is that it? So now we're talking about electric cars. So, what kind of insight does that bring you? Are you saying, well, I'm not interested, or this is something happening, or?
No, I don't know. I think the school, like how you can plug in the little stove too and use it off your battery. Like, I don't know, it's pretty wicked.
Yeah. You know that more and more electric vehicles are coming up with a way that if you run out of electricity or if you have a power outage, you can use the battery of your car to feed part of the house, if not the whole house.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah. But you know, between us, when I'm thinking about future mechanics, I'm thinking about guys that are going to have to fix gas cars, hybrid cars, plug-in hybrid electric cars, and electric cars in the future. So it means that you will have to be a lot more polyvalent than you know us older guys. Because I worked in a garage when I was young, you know, and we'd fix gas cars, and there were carburetors back then. You would use a screwdriver to start the car, way back when. You know what I'm talking about, don't you?
I used to bring a Hummer with me with my gasoline car. I can fix everything with that.
Yeah, that and duct tape.
Yeah.
But yeah, so are you guys getting courses in maintaining or fixing electric cars?
That's a question for
As of right now, we don't cover electric vehicles in our course right now, but we're thinking about adding some courses so they can get a basic idea how they work.
Okay. You know that there are courses being put together right now across Canada, you know, to fix and maintain not only the electric car, but to fix the batteries.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Be interested to see something.
Because there are some garages now that, let's say you have an older electric car, instead of changing the battery, you can fix the battery. This is something happening right now.
Yeah, I'd like that information. Find that for me.
Come again? Well, I would say more modules at this point, but sometimes the problem is just with connectors. You know, sometimes it's small issues. Instead of changing the whole, you know, battery, you just have to fix part of the battery. I remember another brand. So a guy that I know had a car, he had 400,000 kilometers on his electric car. So he went to the dealership, another brand, and he was having issues with charging the vehicle, and the dealer told him that he had to change the battery. So he called me and I said, go to this EV expert, and he fixed the battery, and it cost him $325. $325 instead of changing the battery.
That's the same price.
So, well, it's expensive. Changing an engine, it's expensive. So, but now more and more people are getting trained to work on the batteries themselves. So this is going to be part of your future.
Is the process in place at the moment where you can change the cell that's defective in the battery?
Well, you have to ask that to the manufacturers. Depending on the manufacturer, from one manufacturer to the other, there are different processes. But you know, things are evolving really quickly when it comes to training for future mechanics. I can tell you that. And I've seen that in Nova Scotia, in BC, in Quebec, in Ontario. New courses are being put together so that people can, I would say, make the transition from maintaining and fixing a gas car to an electric car.
What's the typical maintenance schedule of like an EV?
What's the typical maintenance schedule for a gas car?
Well, like,
It depends on the brand.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, it really depends on the brand.
Yeah, true.
It's the same
But
with
it's
electric cars.
But it's like, you know, like you get a gas car, you got to do like typical oil changes, brake service and stuff like that. Like when it comes to an EV car, like how often would you get it maintenance?
Well, I mean, I would say that you have to make sure that the brakes work properly. So you have to clean the brakes once a year or every 2 years. Sometimes you have to change the liquid, the coolant.
For the battery, yeah.
And the rest is suspension, steering. That's ridiculous. Yeah, it's the same. It's the same. But from one brand to the other, depending on the warranty and all that, there's some differences.
And I also, yeah.
You said you replaced a 12-volt battery. Is there a second battery or something that starts it?
Yeah, it's the battery. I'm not sure they had the best battery in it.
All EVs have two batteries.
Yeah, they have two batteries, not the big
12-volt battery.
12-volt batteries. Because I think the electric car is asking more for those 12-volt battery maybe than gasoline car. No, I can't tell. Well, yeah, but I had to change that one after 80,000 kilometers. Yeah, but that's about it. Sorry, what's the purpose of the 12-volt? It's an accessory, yeah. You still need the 12-volt battery for the accessories and to start a car. But it's the difference between gasoline and electric is the big battery from the electric car. We always charge the 12-volt battery. So when it comes time to start, when it's cold outside, the battery is always working for the 12-volt on the electric car. So you don't have to have an alternator to recharge the battery. So it's always recharging. Yeah.
You have to change the 12-volt battery once in a while, whether it's gas, electric, hybrid. It's still old technology. It's changing, but you know, we're still with 12-volt acid-lead batteries.
Yeah.
And to me, it's completely outdated, but we're still there.
Yeah. But otherwise than that, I didn't have anything else to change in it. Yeah. Yep.
Can I share with the audience here what I've been talking to you about with the electric cars?
Yeah.
I probably don't need that, but I just wanted to, I know everybody here is interested in electric cars. I currently have one for 2 years now, approximately. The favorite question you want people to ask you, why did you buy an electric car? I've had that asked to me. Here's the answer you give them. Back in the 1970s, the oil producers around the world formed what they call OPEC. That has been in existence since the 1970s, and they are a cartel that's been robbing you and I with the price of oil at the pumps for all that time. Maybe not you that time, but me, because I'm a lot older than I think most of you's in here. So that's what you can tell them. The other thing to tell them is the Canadian government at that time put what they call a price on the liter of gasoline. It's called theft. What I mean by theft is the federal government in this country, and it's never changed, they're charging you tax on a liter of gasoline. That's never gone away, and it won't, because it's the biggest makeup in the economy today, the revenue from gasoline. The other thing is, just a couple of years ago, what's come into effect? Carbon tax. So now you're paying carbon tax. This figures into about 37 cents per liter of gasoline for every liter you pay for. The other thing is, here's the efficiency of the electric car. At 12,000 kilometers, I was due for my first inspection. I had the car for 8 months. What I did, I added up my remote DC fast charging, which is in the history. It doesn't go away. It's in your app. I added up what it cost me, and I took my power bill at home. I have a 240 for charging, level 2 charging at home. I added up my increase in that. It was about $40 a month. Added it in with my remote charging DC for 8 months. That's how long I had the car, at 12,000 Ks on it. And after I divided that by 8 months, it came out to $57 a month to power my electric IONIQ Q5. What I didn't take into consideration, if that was a gas car, you probably would have put 2 oil changes, which are about $100 a piece each. I never even figured that in there. So this is the efficiency of everybody's economy today is electric vehicles. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. Great. Is there any other question? No? At the end, I'm going to have, are we going to take a little break? Because I have some headset that I have like 13 headsets. So for people who wants to try that, you will be able to see 4 different national parks that I filmed during that trip. So each experience lasts around 12 minutes. You don't have to watch all out of it if you want, but you're going to have to put the headset on your head. You will see 4 thumbnails. All that you have to do is turn your head. You will see a white dot, and you put the white dot on the destination you want to see. For a few seconds, it will charge, and the experience will start. And you're going to be good to watch all around you. You can turn your head, but you cannot move forward. If you do that, you're going to be in trouble. But you can stand up, stay close to your chair, and I'm going to put some headset here at the front, and feel free to try it. I'm going to try to clean that between each of you guys, but I'm going to be here for a while, so yeah, you should have time to experience that. Sure. All right. Great. Thank you. So,
Thank you, Patrick. No, I think we're good. Yeah, thank you. Hey, thank you. Yeah, so Patrick's going to get some of the VR headsets for those who are interested. What we'll do, any other questions right now? I think we've covered a lot. I really appreciate the back and forth, you guys. It's been terrific. So what we're going to do is we do have our team here at Century Hyundai St. John who can show you some of the electric vehicles inside and out. So while he's getting the VR headsets, maybe we can kind of try and get both done. You can kind of see both experiences. So thank you to our guest speakers, Danielle and Patrick. We appreciate their enthusiasm and knowledge on electric vehicles and that all that is possible with EVs. So now we'd like you to get your hands on our amazing EV lineup that Hyundai offers. We'll have some of our staff with some of the vehicles in the showroom. I guess there's one. It's a beautiful one. Where you can hear more on features and benefits of these amazing vehicles, and we'll have some available for test drives with some of our dealership team for those interested. Please take a bit of time, make sure you ask some questions, and then Once everything's kind of settled, we'll get everyone back to wrap things up. How's that sound? So enjoy the VR, enjoy the vehicles, and we'll give it a few minutes and then we'll get back together and carry on the way. Get those last questions answered.